The final countdown. The final countdown. The final countdown. What's up, guys? It is Friday, April 19th, not the 20th. April 19th, sadly for some of you. 2024. Guys, we saw the Bitcoin block height. There it is. What does that mean? My goodness, it looks like a different color from the other ones. An absolutely historic day. Happy Halving Day, guys. So we like to celebrate things in 4 years. What do we have? High school every 4 years, the Olympics, presidents every 4 years. Sometimes people are only married for 4 years. It's different for everybody, right? But it is the final countdown. These 4 years have flown by. I've been in this for 3 years and some change. This is my first Bitcoin halving. And again, happy Halving Day. I decided to make this video because a lot of people are confused about what it is. What is the Bitcoin halving, right? So I'm going to give you 10 things you need to know about the Bitcoin halving so we can study Bitcoin together, right? Some basic stuff. Basic. Because I am a low-level, well, I call myself a low-level Bitcoin educator, right? So we're going to talk about the Bitcoin halving. These are things that are not in any particular order, but I'm going to say number 1, number 2, number 3, and we're going to go from there. So with that being said, let's get on into it. All right, so number 1, let's talk about what the Bitcoin halving is, right? Number 1 is every 10 minutes or so, there is a Bitcoin block that is mined, right, on the blockchain. And the miners, you know, do this mathematical equation with the equipment they have, and they get rewards, right? They get a block reward. They get paid 2 ways. They get paid by the numbers of Bitcoin that are in that block, and it's already mathematically in there. And right now we're at 6.25 per block every 10 minutes. And then they get transaction fees. So what the halving is that issuance gets cut every 10 minutes. So it's going to go from 6.25 right now, what it was, down to 3.125 every 10 minutes. And the miners make half the money in rewards or block subsidy rewards. They still get the transaction fees. So if there's 3,000 transactions in there, all the little transactions, they get paid off that. That doesn't change. But the actual subsidy of the Bitcoin, because the only person that actually gets the Bitcoin are the miners, and then the miners sell it to the exchanges. So number 1, the Bitcoin halving is when the issuance rate gets cut in half from 6.25 to 3.125 roughly every 10 minutes. All right, number 2. Now we know that roughly every 10 minutes a block comes out, and now we went from 6.25 to 3.125 roughly every 10 minutes, right? So if you take 24 hours, that's about 144 times roughly that happens in a day. So 144 times 10 minutes, that's a 24-hour block time. So in that day, we went from 900 Bitcoin. So we took 144. That's how many blocks are mined a day, about. We times that by 6.25, and that comes out to 900 Bitcoin. But now that it's cut in half, it's still going to come out every 10 minutes. Nothing's going to change. But the block subsidy changes from 6.25 to 3.125. And I'm saying this over and over again so you can understand it. And if I sound redundant, sorry. That 3.125 times 144 blocks per day, about roughly, is 450. So you go from 900 Bitcoin a day, roughly speaking, to roughly 450. That's a big dip, man. So again, the Bitcoin halving, number 2, the daily issuance goes from 900 Bitcoin down to only 450 Bitcoin. Now, number 3, I know you guys hear the words, the Bitcoin cycle, and every 4 years. Well, it's not exactly every 4 years. It happened in 2012, then it happened in 2016, then it happened in 2020. They're not the same months or days or anything like that. It's different months. It's 3+ years, sometimes 3 years, 11 months or whatever. So there's no time in Bitcoin, right? It's all about the blocks. That's how they measure time, or that's how we Bitcoiners measure time. That's why I always tell you the block height and everything before we start. So what is a cycle? Well, a cycle was 210,000 blocks. So every time 210,000 blocks are mined, that's when the protocol automatically halves the Bitcoin subsidy. It's a crazy system, man. No human can change it. That's just the way it is. The block subsidy changes and gets cut in half every 210,000 blocks. And right now, as you can see in the beginning of this video, we were at block number 840,000. And on block number 840,000, that's why we went from 6.25 to 3.125. But as you'll see in number 4, I will show you how that works in each different cycle. So number 3 is a cycle in Bitcoin is not exactly every 4 years. We're not measured in time, but blocks. And those blocks are measured every 210,000 equals 1 cycle. Number 4, epochs. Okay, let me tell you what an epoch is. As you can see on the screen, an epoch is a cycle, right? So epoch is 210,000 blocks. And right now we have just entered epoch number 5. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but Bitcoin goes all the way up to 2140. And I'll get into that a little bit later, the year 2140. And epoch number 5, when we're at the block height of 840,000, there's 210,000 blocks in Epoch 1, Epoch 2, Epoch 3, right? And Epoch 4. Epoch 1 was 210,000. Then Epoch 2 went to 420,000. Epoch 3 went to 630,000. Again, 210,000 each. And now we're at 840,000. We're going to have a total of 33 epochs, right? 33 epochs from January 3rd, 2009, all the way up until the year 2140. That's the last epoch. And out of those 33 epochs, there will be 32 halvings, right? Because the first one wasn't actually a halving. It's just the first 4 years went, the first 210,000 blocks went by, and then that first halving came. So number 4, we have 33 total epochs. We are in epoch number 5, and now we're in a whole new era in this new epoch of epoch number 5. Number 5, how much have we issued so far? Well, now that we've hit block 840,000 and we're at epoch number 5, believe it or not, even though we got over 100 and something years left to all the way to 2140, we have mined 93.75% of all Bitcoins that'll ever be out of the 21 million, which is 19,687,500 Bitcoin to be exact, which leaves just over 1.3% of the Bitcoins that'll ever be mined ever for the next 100 something years, next about 116 years to be mined. That's not a lot, guys. Satoshi Nakamoto's brilliant monetary policy, he mined 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes in the first epoch, right? So the first epoch was 50 every 10 minutes, which came out to about 10.5 million Bitcoin for the first epoch. And then the issuance got cut in half from 50 every 10 minutes to 25 in Epoch 2. Then Epoch 3 was 12.5, from 25 to 12.5 every roughly 10 minutes. And then the last epoch we just left went from 12.5 to 6.25. And now we're at 3.125. And that's why they heavy loaded it. They front loaded all the Bitcoin in the beginning when it wasn't really worth anything for like the first maybe 14, 15, 16 months. And now, my goodness, could you imagine people going back in time and knowing what we know now? My goodness. So again, the issuance, over 93% has already been issued, and only 1.3 Bitcoins left to mine in the next 116 years. Number 6, I've already kind of touched on this, explaining everything, but this is the first time in history that a monetary policy is wide open. Anybody can see it, anybody can join it. That right there is Bitcoin's monetary policy, right? They show you from the time Bitcoin started all the way down until the year 2140, exactly the supply issuance, when it's going to be mined, how much, what year. Transparency is crazy. Not only can anyone see it, anyone can join. It's a free market. It's money of the people, for the people, and by the people. We're not forced to use it like the fiat currency. It is the exact opposite of the monetary policy of the current one we're in now. Let me ask you a question. What's the issuance rate of gold? How much was mined today? How about silver? Platinum? Anybody know how many stocks? How about fiat currency? Nobody knows. This is the first time again in history that the monetary policy is completely transparent and open to everyone. is absolutely insane. And this is why people in Bitcoin love it so much, because the monetary system is open to everyone. So at number 6, we got the Bitcoin's monetary policy that is wide open. It's an open ledger for anybody to see. You will know how many Bitcoins will be mined every single day. You can go on mempoolspace.com and see what it is. All these different websites, you can look at it anytime you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is the first time in history that we can see a wide open monetary policy. So not only is Bitcoin finite, we all know that it's the most scarce, finite thing probably on the planet. Definitely money that we've ever seen, because it's only 21 million. You can't make any more. You just can't do it. But not only that, today we have become the hardest money in the world according to stock to flow. And what is stock to flow? Basically, stock to flow is how much you have in stock. Like say you had something in the pantry, like some kind of food item or something like that, and how much the flow is coming into it, right? Versus what's already in the pantry. And gold was the hardest money in the world. That's why it was the best money in the world for 5,000 years. But now it's not, because Bitcoin has a better stock to flow ratio now. Gold stock to flow ratio was the highest in history. And now officially, because like I said earlier, Bitcoin's supply issuance of 19.6 million and only 3.125 coming in every 10 minutes and only 450 coming in a day. And that's how many is coming in a year. That's not a lot, guys. That's not a lot.
The gold, how are they different? How are they potentially better or worse?
Yeah, so I think the two differences, the two main ways in which we can distinguish between gold and Bitcoin, the first one is in terms of the stock to flow ratio. Bitcoin, for me, the reason I was fascinated with it initially was to just find out, when I found out that its supply continues to decline over time, and to think that eventually it reaches zero, that there's no more supply growth. When we're going to get to a point where there's going to be 21 million Bitcoins and that's it, and there's nothing else that anybody can produce. In a sense, this makes it more of a gold than gold. It makes gold like silver, meaning the second highest stock to flow of a commodity. And it's quite interesting what the market is going to think of this. Because in a couple of years, Bitcoin's supply growth rate will be lower than gold's, and then eventually it's going to be zero. So it'll be interesting to see whether this is more important for the market than the tradition and the history and the physicality that comes with gold, and whether Bitcoin is going to continue to grow as a result of this. So that for me is astonishing, and in fact, Bitcoin improves on gold in this regard, because Bitcoin's fixed supply means that it is the first liquid commodity or liquid asset ever invented that has a supply that is truly fixed. You can't make more of it. It is completely irresponsive to demand. And I think this is a point that is not emphasized enough about Bitcoin. The supply of Bitcoin every day is being increased according to the preset schedule that was set about 10 years ago. 11 years ago, and every day it increases by that amount, regardless of how many people are trying to use Bitcoin or how many people want to buy.
So not only is Bitcoin the most scarcest money in the world, we all know that, the most finite money in the world, but also officially, according to stock to flow, it is the hardest money. Number 8 is kind of a fun fact, but everyone's saying that pretty much the halvings are all the same, and they change a little bit here and there, but something different happened this time. This is the first time in history that we have hit an all-time high before the halving. But this time, we did hit the all-time high. The old all-time high from Epoch 4 was 69,000, and as you know, we went up to 73,800. And that has to do with anybody living under a rock. That has to do with the ETFs in January. That's why we call this Bitcoin's gold rush from January 2024 to 2035. So this epoch number 5, this cycle is definitely different, because this is the first time in Bitcoin's short history that we've hit an all-time high before the halving. So this is why I tell people to stay in. When you buy Bitcoin, stay in for 4 years. You got to be patient with it. You know what I mean? It's not just a get in and flip it in a year or two. Give it a cycle. Give it 210,000 blocks, and virtually guaranteed, based on the past, I'm saying, it's always going up. I mean, look at that. Look at the prices. It just goes up. So again, hold on for 4 years. Be patient and know that the price should go up between 6 and the latest 18 months. Number 10, let's talk about the miners for a second. This is the last one and probably the most important one. This is the people that are very important to the Bitcoin's ecosystem, because without them, we wouldn't have any Bitcoin, because they mine it for us. Remember, all the Bitcoin come to them. So imagine, like I said earlier, having a job. Let's say you made $100,000 a year, and for doing the same exact job, because nothing changes when the halving comes except the issuance. You're doing the exact same job, using the same amount of energy, quote unquote, same amount of hours or energy or output that the miners use, except now, instead of getting 6.125, you're getting 3.125, or you making 100,000 and making 50,000. That's what happens to the miners. So it's a big deal for them. How they combat it usually is they start selling off, because a lot of them hold their Bitcoin, but a lot of them sell most of it to pay their bills and stuff like that. But some of them HODL it a little bit, because again, that's how the Bitcoin comes on the market. But right before the halving, usually, to get ready for those few months that are going to be coming up, when I told you about when the price goes up, because it has to for miners to stay in business. Because again, it's the same amount of demand that's coming in, or more now with the ETFs. But if the demand stays the same and the supply goes down as issuance, the price has to go up. What they do is they'll sell off some of their Bitcoin, and then they'll, sit back and keep trying to use it. But if the miners keep using the same machines that are not efficient machines, and the exahashes are not that fast, then it's not going to be good. And a lot of times, a lot of miners shut down because they're not in profit mode, and they'll shut down, and it's survival of the fittest. Only the strong survive. The most efficient miners in the mining pools are the ones that are going to survive. So this will cause the hash rate to go down. And if you don't know what that is, you can Google that. So number 10, the miners are the most important in this ecosystem. And they have to be constantly worried about if they're in profit mode or something like that, because this is their business, guys. They spend a lot of money on mining these Bitcoins and, buying these machines and the equipment and paying people and everything else. And when your pay gets cut in half, that's very, very difficult. So number 10, the miners are most affected by the Bitcoin halvings. There you have it, guys. Those are the 10 things, basic things you need to know about the Bitcoin halving. Hopefully you learned something in this. Again, I tell everybody this all the time, and I know I sound like a broken record. You got to study Bitcoin, and hopefully I can be an introductory channel to you to learn some basic stuff. And I can only teach you what I know, and I'm working really, really hard, and I'm using my flashcards to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. That's what we have to do as men and women out here, is to figure out how the world works. And there is no thing, as far as money is concerned, that is more important to learn about than Bitcoin. And if you don't know that, then you will when you start studying. But again, this is why the Bitcoin halving is such a big deal. Again, it's not going to take off right away and all this other stuff, but it's such an important situation. It's like a leap year. It's like great high school graduation. It's like when a president comes. It's like when the Olympics, or when you get divorced every 4 years. It's very, very important. So again, hopefully that helped you. Listen, study Bitcoin, keep studying it. And when you do, whatever knowledge you get up to, buy that amount. And I'm not telling anybody to buy if you don't know anything. Just get a little bit. And every time you buy some, write the date down and go out to 4 years and see what it's going to be in 4 years. And I'm almost guaranteed it's going to go up in fiat terms, because again, Bitcoin has no ceiling, because fiat has no floor. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And again, guys, you work your butts off. Hopefully you're not making 100,000 and they cut your pay to 50 grand. But you do work hard, and your money literally is getting debased, not by that much, but it's getting close by this fiat currency. And what are you going to do to hold it? What are you going to do to hold on to that life, that energy? Because that's what energy is. It's your life. It's your blood, sweat, and tears. What are you going to do to hold it? Gold was great, but we got a new money in town. It's the hardest money, and we already know what it is. It's the best way to save. And for me, the only way to save. And that's Bitcoin. I love each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace and love, guys.